and it included Cannon's initials engraved on the blade. Cannon, in turn, spent the same time making a tomahawk similar to his own, having the same qualities of durability, beauty, and balance. After exchanging gifts, the parting was brief and all too final. Cannon found out later that his new friend was killed with a group of Texans in a battle against the Mexican army someplace near a dusty, obscure mission called the Alamo. After finishing his chore, he looked up to see a faint wisp of smoke lazily rising from his cabin across the water. The wind changed direction slightly. He thought he heard White Fawn and the baby laughing. The isolated valley had been home to him and White Fawn for 3 years. Giving up the life as a guide and trapper was not a hard decision to make. Civilization was all too quickly sweeping its way west like a devouring prairie fire. Wagon wheels cut deep scars into the virgin prairie. Along the trails, forts with their settlements were sprouting like mushrooms in their shadows, turning into villages. These villages would soon turn into cities. Cannon had wanted no part of this. His only recourse was to move still further west and find sanctuary somewhere for him and his family. During an expedition, when he guided a government party over Lolo Pass and across the Bitterroot Mountains, he stumbled upon the valley which stretched before him. In all his travels he had never seen a place so awesome, yet so peaceful and quiet. The immense, towering cirques were topped with massive, threatening boulders, which in turn were devoured by the clouds which hovered over the peaks. In contrast to this impregnable barrier which surrounded him, below lay the serene alpine valley. Its lush green meadow was complemented by the deep indigo surface of the lake. On the floor, healthy, majestic pines reached to the heavens, while further up the slopes their stunted cousins were simply happy to have survived another winter. The valley met all the requirements which he sought. There was a heavy stand of prime timber, a small lake, and even a series of waterfalls which were fed by springs somewhere high up on a cliff. A large, lush meadow running down the center of the valley would be excellent for grazing or small farming. But most important would be the isolation and protection that the valley would afford. During the winter, it would be an impenetrable fortress. In the summer, there was only a single trail which led into the valley. And before it dropped into the valley, the trail seemingly came to an abrupt end at a cascading waterfall, only to continue again unseen on the other side. The isolated valley was now his home. White Fawn, several months pregnant at the time, had accompanied him when he had discovered the valley. The Cheyenne princess, her son and husband, had found a home at last. He first met White Fawn 2 years earlier, somewhere near Tin Sleep River in the Bighorns. While following the tracks of a large elk that had moved down from the high country, he was about to make a sharp turn on the mountain trail, but pulled up abruptly. Willow, his horse, responding to the slightest change of pressure on the reins, instinctively froze in her tracks. Once again he felt his senses becoming more acute. Suddenly, high above, he could see an eagle, only a speck in the sky. He could hear her faint screech as she proudly proclaimed her success, a pocket gopher firmly clutched in her talons. Somewhere far behind him, a small stone dislodged and innocently bounced lazily down to the canyon floor. He turned his head slightly and detected a faint aroma of smoke. To have his senses suddenly become more attuned to his surrounding was not an unusual occurrence. Every time there was a threat of danger, he seemed to be aware of it ahead of time. He couldn't explain this uncanny instinct, but it had never failed him. With one hand resting firmly on his pistol, the other just inches from the Spencer rifle, he nudged Willow further down the path. He made the turn around a sharp bend, and the trail led into another small valley. It was heavily timbered on both sides. In the center lay a lush meadow. He was not, however, prepared for the ghastly sight that defiled this tranquil setting. A small party of Indians, which he surmised to be Cheyenne, had evidently camped there. The campsite was destroyed. Tent poles and clothing were still smoldering.